Greetings from Hyderabad. Today's event focuses on AI is rewriting CMS. Are we ready? Presented by Akshay Sura, hosted by Vishal and Yamini. Over to you, Akshay.
Right, thank you. Let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome, thank you. So thank you guys for having me in this user group. I was telling Yamini that I was born and brought up in Hyderabad, so this is a little bit special, and I did present at some point in person in Hyderabad, so it's nice. All right, guys. So today's topic is AI is rewriting the CMS. Are we ready? It talks about governance risk and then responsibility in the modern CMS from an implementer perspective. And hopefully it'll be interactive enough that you guys can ask your questions or make your statements. But um, my name is Akshay Sura. I've been doing this for a really long time. Most things that you probably know me from are the Sitecore Slack that you use, if you do use it, and then the Sitecore Hackathon. So this session is not like a product demo. It's not like anti-AI. It's not based on fear. It's about something teams are already experiencing but have not fully named it, right? AI is no longer just a feature inside a CMS. It's changing how we build things, how we deploy things, how we personalize and govern digital experiences. And the question is not whether your team is using AI, it's whether your team is governing or knowing how to use it properly is the question. So this whole thing started when last month I was watching one of the developers write a prompt instead of writing code. So no pseudocode, no design document, just a prompt. It generated hundreds of lines of code. It seemed to compile fine. It passed all of the QA tests, and then the rendering was serialized, checked in, PR went through, and it was deployed. Right. So the question was, 6 months from now, if the rendering breaks, who owns it and who understands it? Because, does anyone remember what the prompt was to generate this specific rendering? And that was like really interesting to think about because it's not rare anymore. It happens more often than we know it or we want to know it. So it made me start thinking about all of the all of the past, what it would have been if we did have AI like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, right? So for years, CMS environments were predictable. We told the system what to do. We wrote the renderings. We defined the rules. We configured like the pipelines. And the platform did exactly what we asked it to do, minus some bugs, which are normal, right? Um, there was clear authorship. We knew who built it. We knew 6 months from now, if something happened and the person was still in the company, who could give us some info if we needed to. Uh, Today, we are in a different state. So AI helps scaffold components. It can do personalization, logic. It can generate content. Uh, it can suggest configuration patterns, even some configuration if you feed it the right documentation. And that changes something really, really important. Authorship of code and content becomes shared. The responsibility is distributed. Rules don't really um, aren't really like human controlled. They're often suggested by AI, right? Um, that doesn't mean the system's broken. It doesn't mean the operating model has changed. The platform still executes things that we want it to. It's just who's asking it to do it is different. But when the authorship becomes shared and the ownership becomes explicit. If we do not define it clearly, then the risk is is great. It accumulates quietly. We're not realizing that as we are doing this as practitioners, things are going to start adding up. The technical debt everyone keeps talking about keeps adding up much faster. Um, so the term floating right now, which is the most popular term, is the vibe coding, is what everyone is using, right? So you prompt until it looks right. So I want this, you get a response. No, this is wrong. That is right. No, can you make it blue? Can you make it do this? And then you tweak it until it compiles, you commit, and you move on. So the workflow now is prompt, generate, adjust, commit, serialize, and you deploy. And then this that's the shift which kind of worries me a little bit because the it's moved from I understand this implementation to you just want it to work, so it works is what it's turned into, and that's the scary part, right? So AI is lowering the cost of everything. Um, I remember in the last presentation, one of the gentlemen was like, well, our salaries are going down, or like we're not getting enough jobs. Yeah, I understand all of that. Um, it does not lower the cost of maintenance. It might lower the cost of generation because we're trying to get it to work and we're trying to get it out there. But when things break, it doesn't reduce the cost of maintenance because you still have to understand what it's trying to do. So in Sitecore environments, serialization of whatever you're doing, and once it gets into an environment, and that's it, like it gets to the environment and then you're done. So if AI is generating configurations, is um, and those configurations enter your pipeline of deployment, right? It becomes a part of your architecture. So PowerShell scripts, I've seen PowerShell scripts generated countless number of times using AI. Uh, they're written with prompts, integration logic, no one understands. So here's the API for XYZ. I'm trying to do this. It can integrate it into your code. Um, but there's nobody who understands it fully. We are assuming security that doesn't match your authentication model. I've seen teams deploy AI-generated serialized items that look harmless. They look perfectly fine. But the thing is, they broke a few weeks after when they start publishing it. You spend 2 days looking into what happened, uh, and then you figure out the issue, fix it. But then that's how the new technical debt is adding up. It comes faster. It is very sneaky in the sense because you don't know what's happening, you are able to it hides a little bit better and it costs the same to fix. Excuse me 1 second. Now, that's from a development perspective, right? So if you look at it from a marketing perspective, marketers are getting everything that they've ever dreamt of. So AI tools, which are built into like the modern CMS systems, enable marketers to generate content, publish at one moment, have their own agents which can look at SEO, AEO, all of that fun stuff. So the AI agent, which is doing personalization or generating content, can generate 50 variants in minutes, landing pages for multiple regions instantly. It can translate on demand. I watch teams light up the first time they see this, right? Especially marketers. But here's the scenario. So assume you have a page and you create 12 regional pages. Uh, there are three references to a feature not available in specific market. So out of the 12 pages, three references to a feature are not available in specific markets. No one catches it because you're generating everything at scale at this point. When you do test it randomly, it looks fine. Everything's published. There is no issue. The content looks fine. It's fluent. It's polished, but it's wrong because we didn't regression test every single way, and we can't because the amount of output that is being generated, it's non-testable at this moment in time because you have to keep up with the amount it's generating. So if AI is generating variations on the fly, multiple variations on the fly, how are you going to check all the variations that AI is going to generate? So that's the scary part. So that's what scares me the most. So assume AI suggests you personalization rules. So for instance, if a viewer visits your pricing page twice, let's show him or her a 15% discount. Sounds fine, no issues at all, right? But was the pattern validated against real segmented data? We don't know. Or did the model just infer it from it because it seemed like plausible? Now, assume AI deployed this logic, personalization logic, over a weekend that was supposedly busy. 40,000 visitors come to your site to look at that discount. Now, no one, imagine if a good number of people use that specific discount code. So this is not a bug because we're asking AI to personalize our site, bring us more sales. That's what we're telling it, right? So this is, and it deploys it to test it. And if 40,000 people came to your site that week and a good number of them use this 15% discount, that's a huge revenue event for your customer, for yourself, for you, if you work for a company, because it touches money and it touches privacy. And that's what we're trying to get to is you can't let the AI do whatever it wants. It needs to be by reviewed with the same seriousness as an e-commerce system or a financial system because there's money implications when you're dealing with anything which is discounted, anything that's multiplied. You have to be very, very careful. So most CMSs are shaped by three groups, right? Engineering, we care about architecture. Marketing cares about velocity and all of the fun stuff. And then and legal cares about risk. What's scary is AI accelerates all three. So it moves faster than we can align between engineering, marketing, and legal. So if engineering adopts AI assisted development without legal awareness, there's compliance gaps. If marketing scales content without architectural oversight from the engineers, the debt accumulates. And does not, if governance starts using AI and they make a mistake, it affects from a legal perspective, from a revenue perspective, it all collapses very quietly. And it sounds really scary, but I am sure all of you work for bigger companies, have dealt with customers, and you can start seeing like if you work for like Infosys or Globant or whoever it is, you're having to take these courses, I'm assuming, because when I uh, spend time with a customer, they are having courses where you have to go through responsible AI. You need to do this. You can't do this. You can't do that. They are giving you guidance. They can't control you, but they're trying to give you guidance because they are scared of something bad happening. And this is what it is. So, um, you keep hearing this, right? AI makes us fast, and that's true. There's no question AI makes it fast. but faster doesn't mean better. So when leadership says you need to move faster, um, guardrails do not slow you down. Rework from unreviewed AI output actually does. So you can build a component in minutes, but a few months from now, when the site has an issue and you're trying to troubleshoot it, it won't be so easy. Yeah, it will still take time. So when they say competitors are already using AI everywhere, then the answer is, well, some of them may be accumulating risk they have not measured yet. When they say AI is good enough, the answer is it's good enough to generate, it's not good enough to validate itself. So even if you used AI to write your own tests, whether they are UI tests, whether they are code-based tests, it doesn't matter what it is, you're still not covering yourself in terms of risk. Your traditional SDLC has been there for decades for a reason, because it actually works. Systems have all used, like when you think of Uber, when you think of great systems in the world, they all had to go through an SDLC process, and there's a reason for that. Even then, think about it. You worked on several implementations. There's no bug-free code ever that anyone knows of. So AI makes us faster. So sorry, one second. Get to the next one. So this is not, I want to be clear. This is not about stopping AI. I'm not saying don't do it. What I'm saying is that it's about stopping unsupervised AI. So first, human reviews should not be negotiable, right? So uh, AI generated artifacts cannot ship without validation. If AI touched it, someone should own it. So no anonymous components, no orphan serialized items. Governance must scale with output. So this is the interesting part. So if our velocity increases 5 times, so I'm able to generate 5 components in 2 hours as opposed to five components in a week, the review has to scale proportionally. And this is where you'll start seeing the issues, which is we get lazy, we kind of not care about, oh, that's okay. As long as it works, push it out. That kind of mentality is going to catch up really, really soon. So we need to verify before we trust. So in systems, trust is earned through validation. So if your code generation is being validated, so you generate 5 components, you get it validated, they look good with minimal tweaks, you go back, you generate another 10 components, pretty much validated. The more you do it and the more you review it, you kind of understand, okay, this thing is able to generate 95% of what I want. So you know exactly what to look for in terms of what it isn't. And that's the important part. It gives you that confidence, it gives you that validation that what you're doing, you're earning trust. So you're trusting the system that's building it. Um, so I'm not saying add all red tape everywhere, stop all development. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you validate through, uh, so you earn trust through validation, and that's the important part. So the difference between teams that are thriving with AI and the teams that are struggling is not the tooling. So it's not that I have one tool and you have another tool. It's the operating model and the maturity of it. So high AI adoption with low governance creates chaos. So if you don't have any governance, you're not giving any guidance to your people, and that's the pure recipe for chaos. But high adoption with strong governance, it creates a leverage, which means you can go faster, you can do things much better. So most teams right now are experimenting, which is completely normal. The space is changing very, very often, right? So every day there's a new tool, every day there's a new something. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to define guardrails and keep working at it. So it also becomes a never-ending process. And that's true for all software development lifecycle projects, but they are so tried and tested that they often change slightly. This is where it becomes stable for all of us. So AI is reshaping how we operate anywhere really, but especially in the DXP and the CMS space. But the CMS did not become less important. So just because we can do everything through AI doesn't mean, well, anyone can do what CMS can do. It just becomes more important because CMS gives us something that, like any specific system, right? You need a CRM for a specific purpose. You need a CMS for a specific purpose. So the architecture matters most when the generation of this is extremely cheap. So serialization discipline makes a difference when mistakes can scale instantly. Ownership makes uh, matters most when nobody remembers the original prompt. AI is really not the threat, it's the unsupervised AI is. And that makes your role as practitioners more critical than ever. And so this is the interesting part, right? So from a Sitecore perspective, we have access to tools now, things that do agents that work in the background. There's a lot going on and in the Sitecore AI space right now, and people are using it in different ways. So for instance, in the recent hackathon, we had three categories. There's a lot of entries which came through. A lot were for the marketplace app, but there were a couple others for like the AI assisted development and the other category. Now, the scary part about all of this is we are able to integrate AI into pretty much every single piece, like with custom apps and with custom fields and marketplace apps. You can customize quite a few things, and then you hook in webhooks and then push it to external sources. You pretty much can make a call every time someone saves or someone publishes, and then you can take that call, do a management API call back into Sitecore AI and do a lot of things to it. That is the interesting part, is that along with all of the agentic AI stuff Sitecore has provided, where you can customize things, have agents running 24/7, doing a bunch of things. It is an AI world that we live in at this moment in time. Everyone wants it faster, better, cheaper, faster, better, cheaper. So so if you guys can share, and if you can, then I can share experiences from myself. But the first question is, where has AI supervised? Oh, sorry, not supervised. It's too early for me. It's not even 5 a.m. for me right now. Where has AI surprised your team? So in terms of, it could be anything, but I'm curious to know where it has surprised you. If anyone can share, that's great. If you're too shy and you don't want to talk, you can type it in the chat. That's totally acceptable. If not, I will give you my 2 cents about that question.
One of the thing which AI surprised recently me is like when I was trying to find a find a resolution for the bug. But the bug is that it was showing the stale content, media content on the CDN image, like the edge, and the Vercel app shows the correct image. So there is stale media content on the edge content. So I was wondering where is the issue. So I was trying to get through the logs and I was giving this logs to AI to feed through it. So I was wondering, it is showing something like regenerate the environment credentials and all those stuff. I was like, really, why do I need to regenerate if the media content is stale and other things? So I kept giving the feed to AI, and I think it took 1 day for me to get, like, it showed me like all other 20, 30 options, and I was wondering nothing was fitting there. So next day I woke up and I was trying to like manually think about it, and it was just a rename of the image because the image was there, which is two images were there which are same in name. So it was picking the first one which got published. So I think that
Oh, that
there I
makes
was
sense.
thinking.
Yeah. And that's interesting, right? So it's a double-edged sword. So sometimes it can solve problems really, really quickly by looking at the logs or the documentation or the API. And what I found is like there would be times where I spent hours doing this one task. It's not necessarily a bug, but to build something and it's just stuck on one thing. I'll give you a recent example. So I'm working on a project where you record audio and it so everything was fine and all of a sudden because everyone's working on it, um, my system can't record audio and I'm like what the heck is happening, so I sit with it for 6 hours back and forth, code changes, recompile, test, code changes, recompile, test. And the interesting part is there's a lot of recursion happening when you do AI coding because you're trying to fix something very specific and it tries to attack it in different ways. So you can't be scared to challenge it in the sense, well, this is really frustrating. This is not working. We're going round and round. Can you just add logging so we can figure out what it is? So you also need to try to help itself. So it does have a wealth of knowledge, but at the same time, it gets stuck in a loop sometimes. And I found that so many times, and it was very, very frustrating. Um, for me, my part is very similar to you, Yamini. Is I am not a React developer. I'm not a Next.js developer at all. But one of our developers who was dealing with the customer was out that day, and there was an issue in production and I had access to no React developers, and I really needed to fix that bug. So for me, I was really scared in the sense I am not a React developer. If this thing generates something that I don't know of, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. How the heck am I going to do this? It was with the HubSpot integration that it wasn't picking up the next form that it needs to switch to. So I ran it. Thankfully, the code change was just in like one line where I don't know what it was doing, but uh, it was easy enough for me to test it on the lower environments. It worked, and then I pushed it to prod for as a hot fix. But to me, what was surprising is the code base was enormous. We've never used AI on that code base ever. And it just ran through, I think it spent like 25 to 30 minutes to kind of review the entire application. And then it came back, and when I asked for a bug, it fixed it, which I thought was impressive. I would have never been able to do it because I don't know exactly where it could have been, but it was able to fix it, which was nice. So that was a surprise for me. Um, Not sure if anyone else has anything else to share. If not, we can go to the next question. So the next question is, what worries you the most? So for me, what worries me the most is not educating everyone that we work with, right? So it's impossible for any organization to restrict everyone that is working to not use AI. AI has become so normalized. A regular person is using AI on their phones or wherever it is to generate content, to ask for things, to look up stuff, to search things. It's impossible to keep up with that technology and it's impossible to restrict everyone. So then that leaves us more from like a governance, guidance, and education perspective. So in my mind, we should be thinking about here is what we need you to do. So use AI, but use this. Uh, be careful about sensitive material which is specific to the company. Only use material which is deemed as public in there. If you're using sensitive, use this, companies should also provide alternatives, right? So they should be able to say, well, we know the need is so great that we have our own large language model internally. Try using this. Tell us what you think of it. If there's any gaps, we'll fix it. Things of that sort. Um, I can say that some orgs, so like one of the pharma customers we work with, we had to go through like a 4 hour training, whether you're a contractor, whether you are an employee, you have to go through that 4 hour training. And essentially, that walked you through all of this responsible AI, unresponsible AI. And the course was pretty long, but the thing that was interesting is it walks you through what can happen. So if you're trying to summarize a something that is intellectual and you put it in a public AI, this is what can happen. If you take your code and you dump it in a public AI, this is what can happen. So it gave you scenarios, and that was really interesting because it kind of made you understand, okay, there is consequences, this is what would happen, and then they would give you scenarios of person A is asking person B this and person C does that, this is what may happen. And that was good enough for you to understand, okay, that you have to be very conscious when you're just dumping code, right? So if I dump my whole code, give my identity, I'm not only compromising myself but also my customer and any other intellectual property. So you have to be a little bit mindful of that. Again, you can type your questions in the chat or statements in the chat if you like. And then, if you had to define responsible AI inside your CMS environment tomorrow, what would it look like? So, what would responsible AI look like in your org? Is the next question. Um, Again, put in your answers in the chat or speak up. But for me, responsible AI is we are all going to use it, but we are all going to follow certain guidelines. So we make sure that, when you have um, things that you need to get resolved, like bugs or create content or create an agent that personalizes or automatically gives coupons or whatever it is, that we check it. We have a review part of it. And if we are generating, so if companies want to reduce their costs by not hiring developers like us or uh, and use AI, that's great, but you still need people who are senior enough to review that code to get it through. If marketing campaigns are being generated and run by AI, then you need a human being to review it. And it sounds not so smart, but if you're generating like 100 pieces of content an hour, unfortunately, you do need someone or some group of people who are able to review that 100 pieces of content an hour, because without review, you're not going to know what's going to go out in the world. You don't know how your brand is going to be represented. And it's very, very silent, and you can get hurt pretty badly as a company if things are not followed. So I remember from the last user group, there were a ton of questions in terms of, have you seen this changing the job market? Yes, I have. I mean, personal experience, things are a lot more harder to come by, right, in terms of jobs, but that's the current flux that we are in. But where I see this is your job might move from more of writing code to a lot of generating code and reviewing code and making fixes to the code, probably. Same thing with other places where there's QA involved, marketing. I think we will be more of the reviewers and fixers than we will be of actually writing code, because it doesn't make sense for you to probably write most of the code that we have been writing for the past God knows how many heroes are you going to generate, how many uh, FAQ components are we going to generate, right? Doesn't make sense for us to do it anymore. But at the same time, it does make sense for us to give the architecture guidance, build the architecture guidance, do the code reviews or any other kind of reviews. So, with that, if no one has anything you want to share, I can answer any questions from my perspective if you have questions. And you guys are a silent group, but I'm glad a lot of you joined. But if you don't have any more questions, or if you think of any questions, just ping me on Slack or LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you have. We do spend quite a bit of time with AI. We're building these systems for actual customers who are going to be using these AI generated systems to in different parts of their workflow. So every day is a new story. We try learning every single day and we figure things out. And then the next day we come back and attack it in a different way. So hopefully this was useful.
Yes, it's a great, really great, insightful session. Sorry. And I think if you have any questions, you can ask here or you can ping to Akshay as well on Slack, as you said. And thank you, Akshay. It was really good, insightful session, and also where to govern, like to govern either the AI unsupervised AI and AI supervision is also really great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.